if Satoshi was alive, because I don't think he is, but more important than the money, there's been a group of people for really 15 years that have tried to birth this asset into existence. And it's just a time to pause and recognize that it's a community that got together that decided they were going to store their hard-earned worth in this technology. And, if Satoshi was alive, because I don't think he is, I'm sure he'd have a big smile on his face. It was a great technology, but it's really the social construct that people learn to understand it and trust each other. Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, this is probably the greatest example of a broad-based coalition of people coming together to do something really spectacular.
There is.
And so I think, before we talk about price, I just want to recognize the moment, because $2 trillion asset in 15 years coming out of a guy's idea is pretty stinking spectacular. It's a belief system more so even than a financial asset for a lot of people. That said, I was on the phone with one of the great macro investors in the world, and we were discussing, we might have just seen in the last 3 months the single greatest wealth gain for 25 to 45-year-olds in history, right? Because they have a lot of their money in crypto. You've had crypto broadly double or more, depending on which collection of coins you own, and what impact that'll have on the economy, right? In general, 22, 23% of wealth shocks get spent in consumption. And I think you're going to see, the tables at Miami are going to get bid back up on the Miami nightclubs, and people are going to be buying houses and cars. And so it'll be interesting to see if the Fed has an input of an increase in consumption from this massive wealth gain that a bunch of young people have made.
I was also created with the idea of it being a unit of currency, a kind of native currency to the internet. No one wants to spend it anymore. We all want to hold it.
Early on, it morphed itself from a payments idea to a store of value, to digital gold. And if you just simply think of this as the new generation's gold, it is a store of value. It will go up when people want it. It will go down when people say we don't need it. Right now there's a frenzy around buying Bitcoin all around the world. It's one of the first global assets, but there is so much leverage in the system, right? The basis, what it costs to fund long positions, is as wide as I've ever seen it. And so will it last to the end of the year? I think so. Could it last to the inauguration? I think so. But I can guarantee all your listeners there will be at least one, if not two, vicious retracements, which will test your soul, right? When there's that much leverage in a system, it washes it out. The bigger question is, why did I call this a paradigm shift? The reason I called it a paradigm shift is we had 4 years of horrible regulation and an administration that really didn't want to promote digital assets, Bitcoin, or any cryptocurrency in America. And America literally leads the world in regulation. If it doesn't work here, it's very hard for it to work elsewhere. And we have a president now, like him or not, he is great for the crypto industry. He has said early on he was going to be a crypto president, a Bitcoin president. He's got a cabinet full of believers, full of people that are long crypto. And so I think you can see with the choice of the SEC chair, we are going to have a much different regulatory environment. And that's going to allow innovation. It's going to allow TradeFi, the Citibanks of the world and everyone else to participate in this new asset class. And, it's tough because you can see on one hand, man, it feels very frothy and leveraged. A lot of the stocks feel expensive. On the other hand, it feels like the rest of the world is just going to get it. The traditional world is just going to get a chance to play.
Exactly.
People are playing this momentum. They have seen people on television get rich. This is a get-rich-quick scheme. Get-rich-quick schemes always end badly. They used to pitch it as having transactional value. Now they are admitting that the only value it has is store of value. Where Mike is wrong, and God bless him, he's done very well and built a real company. Where he's wrong is in thinking that the government has had a sledgehammer against their knees. Bitcoin has less regulation than other commodities, less regulation than foreign currencies. It is benefiting in fact, that's its main appeal. That's why it's used by blackmailers and foreign terrorists, is because it isn't regulated. You can send massive amounts without having to live with know your customer rules, the way that banks have to deal with a $50,000 deposit. Try making a $50,000 payment out of Bank of America. You will get lots of questions about know your customer. So the point of this is that it has gone up because it's gone up, and it will go down dramatically if it starts to lose that momentum. And that will happen. Mike's right that in the short term, regulation is unlikely to get worse. But there are lots of people in the government who do not believe that undermining the U.S. dollar is a good thing for the U.S. and who are worried about individuals getting badly hurt.
Yeah, by the way, I'm still in the camp that I don't like the dollar being the reserve currency. It makes it too expensive. This is what's hollowed out our manufacturing base. It's criminal. The fact that we're putting tariffs on China when all this could be solved if they didn't artificially suppress their currency, it's like we're creating two problems to solve the original one.
I agree with you, but we've got $33 trillion worth of debt, and people better believe in the dollar, or problems are going to be a lot worse.
We can service that. Households will buy it. We saw how many people created a Treasury Direct account for 5% rates over the past couple of years. 100% we could fund this.
No, Kelly. A lot of U.S. Treasury securities are owned by foreign entities.
Yes, because they have to. Because they have to buy them in order to keep their currencies low. And if they didn't do that, they wouldn't be enabling this massive debt pile that we now have to deal with.
Are pro-risk. I do think it also just signals how much capital has been idle for the last couple of years, either parked in money market cash or waiting to see if the economy survived. So I think Bitcoin rising is to me, breaking out of a holding pattern is a precursor to what the S&P is going to do the rest of the year.
Speaking of the moves in the broader markets, you say the road to 6,300 is paved with bumps. What do you expect investors to see ahead that may slow them down? What are some of the key markers that you're looking for?
Well, I think there's a lot of macro to digest the next 3 weeks. Tomorrow is the jobs report, and I think investors are fearful that it's going to be too strong because of the hurricane and seasonal adjustment, so it's going to be a big number. Next week is CPI, which has been running a little hot, and Fed Chair Powell spoke about that earlier this week. And then, of course, on the 18th is the FOMC rate decision. So I think once we're through these events, investors can actually then invest into sort of that Christmas Santa Claus rally. So I think 6,300 is still very doable.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we had Bitcoin hit that 103,000, received the selling pressure, dropped down to 92, and now we're back up to 97. And don't forget, guys, we have options tomorrow. Now, we had Mt.Gox said, if Satoshi is still alive, but I don't think so. Yes, guys, you heard that correct. We know who Satoshi is. That's the alphabet boys. And he said a $2 trillion asset coming out of a guy's idea. No, it wasn't a guy's idea. It was the central bank's idea. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And he talked about all the leverage that's in the system, and we're going to have a vicious retracement. And that is a fact. We're going to have stocks and cryptos take a beating, but we're not going to get a crash just yet. But we will have a good correction in the first quarter of 2025. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now we have Charles from Ariel Investments playing the Hegelian dialectic. Bitcoin is a get-rich scheme. Bitcoin is used for crime. Guys, we've heard this before. We see all the utility. We see all the big banks and big corporations integrating all this technology. He's speaking to the sheep. They don't know any better. We clearly see it. I show it to you on a daily basis how they're integrating all this technology in the legacy economy. And the Fed printed 80% of all money in existence in 2 years to destroy the fiat, to speed it up. All fiat dies. They just wanted to speed it up in order to bring in this digital economy. We're going to a level playing field. Now we have Tom Lee says we have a few hurdles, and he named the ones I already told you. Jobs report tomorrow, CPI next week, and then we have the Fed on the 18th, but he left out Microsoft on the 10th. But we already know inflation is not going anywhere right now. Tomorrow is going to be very important, and we're listening for the narrative. We don't care what the number is because they can play it either way. We want to hear the narrative, and that's going to let us know whether the Fed is going to cut rates. And of course, the bond market is going to give us a hint. And we have Jim Cramer says buy Bitcoin, which we know is a signal that we're going to start to dump. And depending on the Fed, it'll be towards the end of this month or it's going to be the first quarter of next year. And then we have Waymo turning up the fourth industrial revolution. Now coming to Miami. When you're looking at these big cities, if Waymo can navigate through Miami, that means it can navigate anywhere on the East Coast. Remember, this technology has already been tried and tested on the West Coast. Now it's time for them to bring it to the East Coast, and all they need is that one crisis in order to bring in these robots, algorithms, and drones. We've heard it from Elon. We've heard it from Klaus. No steering wheel, no pedal, and using an app like Uber for these driverless cars, and private ownership would no longer exist. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
I give up. Bitcoin, you win. There, I said it. Now you can either say I just called the top in Bitcoin or say Cramer's given up on stocks. Just wants us to swap into something that's moved bigly since July 27th when the president-elect gave you the high sign to buy. So in a day where the Dow lost 248 points, S&P dipped 0.19%, NASDAQ declined 0.18%, after Bitcoin trounced the $100,000 level last night before pulling back today. I want to discuss Bitcoin. Really, I do. Not to the detriment of stocks. But in addition to stocks, I come to praise Bitcoin, not bury it. First, let's dispel the idea that I've never believed in Bitcoin. Now, if you search YouTube, you can see that I first bought Bitcoin on September 15, 2020, when it was at just over $10,000. So no, top caller me? No, not here. Oh, and for the record, back in April 2021, I decided to participate in an auction to buy the NFT for the iconic Is God Dead Time magazine cover from April 8th of 1996. Even though I had no idea what a fungible token was, let alone a non-fungible one. The transaction had to be done in Ethereum, so I dutifully bought an undisclosed amount of Ethereum to try to win. I lost the auction, but I forgot to sell the Ethereum. And when I discovered the error, it had appreciated so mightily that I was able to cash out and buy a large farm in an undisclosed location. So you may think I'm calling the top by celebrating Bitcoin at $100,000. I say, au contraire, mon frère. I've been recommending it for years, just like I've been bragging about getting lucky in Ethereum. I call it brag because it's better to be lucky than good.
Waymo announcing plans to expand to Miami today. The Alphabet-owned service will begin cruising through the Sunshine State in 2025 with human, quote-unquote, safety drivers. It plans to launch its robo-taxi service in the area the following year. Rival rideshares Uber and Lyft both plunging about 10% on the news. And this seems to happen again and again. I think the question is, will Uber and Lyft ultimately benefit by being the platforms to manage these sorts of fleets, because Waymo doesn't have that platform to interface with consumers.
Like, that's the sense, and we had Mark Mahaney come on and talk a little bit about those dynamics. At least as it relates to Uber, and as it relates to Lyft. The jury's still out on a lot of dynamics with Lyft. I mean, first of all, there's an operational challenge that has been chasing Uber for 2 years coming out of COVID. So part of the move that we've seen in Lyft, and it's been a volatile ride, but it has been generally up. And it has been up, and it is up 20% year to date with a lot of move in and out. The Waymo dynamic is something I don't know that we do know. I think you should be focused here on Lyft normalizing their business, the fact that the drivers and the fleet dynamics are back, the margins are improving, they are taking back some market share, and that means I think it stays higher.
Lyft being, of course, the L-intense bicep.
Yeah.
Do we have that?
I
We put
feel
that.
like we should, it's like full disclosure
Put it
here.
up. I mean, we have the whole. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Look how happy you were.
Yeah,
at the
I
beginning of
was
the year.
really happy at the start of the year for some reason.
The optimism of your acronym,
Yeah, well,
the possibility of it.
Can't wait. We're going to do acronyms again, by the way. I can't wait for that in January.
Bart
Viewers
Scott.
can't either.
Carter can opine on this. If you look at Uber, the chart, it traded up to about 82 or so in February, sold off, traded back up there recently, is selling off now. Feels as if it wants to visit that $58 level, which was probably the low that we saw a month and a half or 2 months ago. But then I think you got to take another run at it on the long side. So wait for the pullback to, I think, 58 in Uber.
I think that's about right. So it has its low on August 5th, same low as the S&P. It recovers, makes a new high. And now, of course, it's all the opposite. The price-volume correlation is bearish, the relative performance is poor, and the smoothing mechanism has started to turn over. I would be careful.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Sonali Basak. Sonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told his members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will. During that auction that we saw a little bit before, the attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction; it was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.